Ladies and gentlemen, here we will present some observations of the closing down of schools due to the Covid-19 pandemic and the consequences for science education. Here we have a more or less normal learning situation at school, at least regarding science teaching activities. With this picture in mind, you may realize what's lost when schools are closing down. And I have a similar experience by myself. More than 50 years ago, my studies at upper secondary school were interrupted by a teacher strike. During some weeks, we arranged our studies based on textbooks without any teacher support. In most cases, it worked out fine. In the beginning, also in mathematics. But after 1 week, a new area was introduced, calculus. Although a dozen of students worked together with their textbooks, we didn't understand neither the ideas or the practice of calculus. Although we attended a program with focus on mathematics, without our teacher we were lost, and nothing was learned. After almost 1 month, teachers returned to school. Here you can see the former Prime Minister of Sweden, Carl Bildt, in those days welcoming the headmaster back to his school. Today the situation is similar due to the outbreak of the Covid-19 pandemic, and students have lost the social culture of their classrooms. The teachers have lost their classrooms too and have to find new roles. In science teaching, where laboratory work, field studies and other types of practical works are important parts of the education, this is often more problematic. Further, students often also are supposed to do the studies single-handed, in contrast to the often so important collective activities performed at school or in the field. Also, the reflective parts, usually in dialogue form with fellow students and teachers, suffer. Here we present some identified explanations to the shortcomings of the changes towards distance teaching and how they may be avoided. There are general differences between the education at home and those at distance. The design of the home studies differs from the design at the institutions. But also we have found that the learning outcome differs. If we first look at the differences of the design, the home studies are often based on various tasks, including the collection and presentation of data and text introduced by relatively short virtual lessons. In some cases, the teachers create tasks similar to those found in textbooks, for example, concept checks, inquiries, and self-quiz, and so on. The student presentations of the answers are often presented in written text, quoting course literature or websites. More rarely, students are forced or promoted to respond in their own words. Thus, the answers usually are correct, although they give none or only very poor information about the real understanding or learning. So, if you return to the classroom, is it possible to realize the differences in the studies at home compared to those at school? Now, let's look on differences between the learning outcomes. Teachers experience a difficult situation, generating low-quality teaching. The loss of subject content is a result of this, and this is due to the presentation of copied text mainly. Thus, it's possible for the students to present adequate text without apparent understanding. The effect is pronounced when grading is based on reproduced text. And compared to the classroom, the home of the students seem to lack the ability to stimulate deeper understanding, probably due to lack of dialogue at home. Well, how to gain higher quality in the understanding of the subject content. One of the main problems seems to be the teacher's problem to adapt to the new teaching situation. But there are exceptions. This is one answer from a questionnaire to teachers during the pandemic. There's one teacher who says, "I've learned loads. Teaching at distance gives me new opportunities to develop pedagogically." But this teacher is exceptional. Most reactions of the teachers are negative. And this is based on one basic misconception behind this. Most teachers seem to realize how important they don't seem to realize the importance of social processes for the learning. The close relations of the classroom are lost, technical problems disturb the work, the possibility to see the students and feel the atmosphere is also lost. This highlights the importance of social interaction and physically close relations in the classroom. A special problem in science studies are the limited possibilities of doing experiments and practical investigations at home. Once again, look at the situation lost. How to regain this situation when you are sitting alone at home as a student or trying to teach at distance without deeper contact. The problems we see here are not specific for this situation. We have in our earlier studies found that in ordinary school situation, production of words is the main result of science lessons. So, how to create good tasks for the homework? Always try to regain what was lost when leaving the classroom, the laboratory, or the field site. When creating tasks, be creative. Try to create non-repetitive investigating tasks and avoid text replicates. The results of learning should be used in a social context and should be shared with others in order to test their reliability. Then the important question will be how to solve tasks at home without the physical surroundings of others. How to create communication with others sitting at home. One way is to make sure others read or listen to your texts and make comments. This is of course reciprocal. You have to read or listen and comment. Sound as spoken words and images like written text are partly processed by different parts of the brain. Thus, it's essential for deeper understanding to use both these media to create deeper levels of understanding. And the opinions of others are also important in order to reach higher levels of understanding, as well as their misconceptions or mistakes. There are some areas of special importance to be taken into consideration when planning pedagogical activities. The teacher, as well as the fellow students, have to be in dialogue with the learner in order to reach the goal of the curriculum. My personal experiences of teacher strike described earlier is a good example. Scientific breakthroughs are indicators of areas suitable for teaching. They often unveil what was hidden by using a more or less simple but sophisticated method. And always take into account the age and the previous experiences and knowledge of the students when planning pedagogical activities. Now, let's look to some examples how to think when planning teaching in physics, chemistry, and biology in this situation. We start with physics. In physics, advanced mathematical models often are used for problem solving. or explaining what's happening. Many students are distanced from the reality the physical models are supposed to reflect, and regard the subject as mainly focused on problem solving in a mathematical sense. Because of the mathematical overload, it's useful to use many different types of presentations and visualizations in order to reach deeper understanding. The students have the right of relevant teaching, regardless of their mode of learning. Experiments are important, and in secondary school, may they be performed at home. If you compare it with chemistry, the experiments often include some danger, but they are essential and may be included with some caution. Perform them simultaneously at home and discuss them digitally. As in many other cases, more theoretical tasks may be solved digitally in small groups. And it's also important really to discuss the things together. It's possible to do this digitally in small groups. And we turn to biology. Biology ought to be, at least partly, an outdoor activity, but most essential for all biology is the Darwinian perspective. And these aspects may be combined in tasks revealing the dialectic nature of the biological processes. What is happening in many biological processes is hard to predict, but easy to explain. The understanding of this situation is essential. In the biological systems, small changes in environmental factors may lead to large differences, and this is something that could be studied. And small groups of students may perform investigations together. So, where to end up? Are there any conclusions? Preserve the quality factors of the classroom when students work at home. This is most essential. Use escape room pedagogy. Students work together, supported by the teacher. Be prepared to focus on guiding in the learning in a personal manner. Support the achievement of personal abilities useful in the future for each student. Remember the difference between the subject content and the methods used at school to understand this content. This is not a pipe, it is a picture of a pipe. Thank you very much for your attention.